Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. This is a video that many people have been waiting for and are most likely very excited for as well. This is how I built my Thomas the Tank Engine model, and I'm going to be going through this video showing you a step-by-step process on how to build it. So in front of you see me holding my Thomas model. I've also got all the parts that I have decided to collect. It's not a one-to-one replica. Some of the bricks are going to be different, like I've got some thicker bricks on some thinner bricks in certain places, but it all turns out to be the same model. So there are a lot of things to get on with. I'm going to start off with the base. The base here is 16 studs long. I have two 8x4 base plates, all in red. The base has to be red to be able to match the character as well. And what I have here is that on the outer three studs are two 2x3 bricks on both ends. The center studs are also taken up with the 1x2 Technic bricks with the holes in. That's where the driveways are going to go. There's a 2-stud gap between each of those bricks as well. So you've got 3 studs of brick. The next 2 studs are the Technic pin bricks, 2 studs of bricks. Then the next pin brick, 2 studs fillet. And the next 2 studs are the Technic bricks. And then the last 3 studs are just filled in. So that should be your base. Now, the tiles I am applying on top are just some more tiles to cover it all over, make it look nice and tidy, and also keep the construction nice and strong. That is 14 studs long out of the 16, so the first, or like the front 2 studs, will be left clear. What I'm now putting on here are some 1x2 tiles, and that is going to fill that end. In that gap is going to be one of 2 buffers, the magnet buffers. That's going to go in that gap. And one thing I need to quickly point out, the rear buffers that I'm putting on now, they're actually 1 tile above. The buffers that I'm using on my proper Thomas model are the newer ones, where these ones you see now are the older ones, and they kind of level a little bit differently. So this was me experimenting, making sure, you know, which one's the correct level. You can always play around with it in your own time. And now you see me with a 2x2 brick and a 1x1 brick. These are to go at the back of the model, and they cover up kind of the bars of the buffers. Now you could brick build these to be a lot nicer, but because the buffers and the magnets all become, you know, one piece, it's much better to kind of just use that but surround it. If you've got these in red as well, which I did, but sadly I didn't choose them just because it'll be easier for you to see the buffers as well. You could use those if you really want. So you can see here, this is where all the parts are so far on the Thomas model. If you're keeping up, then that's a good thing. If not, then I recommend that you kind of actually go through this video first, watch it, then come back to build it. So there are going to be times where I kind of pick the bricks up to take them apart, because I built the model first, then took it apart in chunks and kind of have to go through it that way, so it's a bit weird for me. But yes, you see 2 2x4 tiles put together with a 2x2 tile underneath, but with 1 side kind of sticking out. So this again goes at the back, and this covers the top part of the magnet buffers. And once again, it needs to be all nice and flat at the back there, and that helps to create a better look, and it's also part of the build. So that's going to go to a side for now, and what I have here are 7 1x4 bricks. Again, these are all in red. These all have to be kind of built up in red again to match the character's look. And if you're like me here, you obviously kind of build them up all in one go first, and you've got to take them apart afterwards. So I've got 3 of these going up the main, what do you call it, like the base basically, going up to that 14 stud mark again. That last one goes across. So those front 2 studs again that were mentioned earlier are left exposed. We've got other things going in there. Now this was another interesting thing, because what I put in there was ever so slightly different to the one that I originally put on my Thomas, because what you're about to see, just as I catch up with myself, I'm having to record these 2 separately. So originally I put a 2x6 tile along there, but here I'm using a 2x4, simply because it will give the drive wheels a bit more breathing space, and I think it would look a little bit better that way. So after that 2x4 is on there, I'm using 2x3 tiles simply because it's what I found first. If you have a 2x6, I would recommend you use that just because it looks a little bit better. There's no like seam line down the middle, and of course it's a stronger construction. And then we have a 1x6 to go on the back of that, and 2 of these 1x1 little cone bricks sort of things. So that's them there. And that is again to kind of act as a special detail. I don't know what they're called, but you put lamps on those kind of pieces, and that keeps the lamp in place. On my main Thomas model you see in the background, I've got a grey 1x1 with a side stud on it to act as that lamp. But yes, that's the base coming along now. And also, what you see here, this is a collection of plates, but this goes up to 15 studs long out of the 16 that we originally had. This is deliberate, of course, because those front 2 studs are those step details that we just did. And of course, they need to kind of slope downwards, but because this is Lego, it's kind of brick built, it's kind of chunky, you need to kind of accept that kind of chunky, again, bricky details. So that's the 15 studs. That extra stud at the back where those 2x2 bricks were, that's where that extra stud comes in. Otherwise, it would have been 14 long, but it's vital that you get that correct. Now we're going to move on to the wheels. These wheels are from Shapeways, but I would rather you bought them from Big Ben Bricks. Now that I've bought from them a few times, the quality of the wheels are so much better to be injection molded than they are 3D printed. Nothing wrong with them, I mean they all work, they all do their job, but I now have a stronger preference. I've always bought from Shapeways first because they were just easier for me to purchase from, but they are very expensive. These wheels are the medium drive wheels. The standard Lego drive wheels that Lego make are called large wheels, and this is the size below. I have not experimented in building this model with the standard size of Lego's own drive wheels. If you want to take the time to experiment with that, then I'll leave that with you. The spacing between the wheels is pretty much the same. I mean, if I were to hold up one of these medium drivers to a standard size driver, it's only like a small amount of difference between the two sizes. I mean, it's kind of difficult to say when I'm obviously trying to show you me doing something else, but it's much better again to go with the smaller details because visually it looks so much better, but comparing the sizes, it's just a bit weird. One thing that's important with the steam engines is that you have to quarter the wheels correctly. So if you've got this one side of wheels where the pins for the driving rods are facing upwards, it's important that you have the wheels facing sideways. Either like a forward sideways or a backward sideways, it doesn't matter, but there has to be like a 90-degree sort of difference between them. Again, it's a bit weird for me to explain, but it has to work in that specific way. Because if you were to have the pins directly up on one side and directly down on another side, it won't turn and it will jam. For the driving rods, there are a few things you can do. What you see me holding there was a 1x9 Technic rod, and that is something I've used for a hell of a lot of my train models. And it is something that was originally used on the Emerald Knight model as well, which is why it's been popularized by a lot of builders and something that I still use to this day. So there we are, it's nice and smooth, works perfectly because it's a kind of set brick as well. It's got that perfect spacing. But something that you see on my original model and something that I kind of use more and more often now because it does look quite nicer are these Technic bricks here. So there's a Technic axle that you see me there in grey. I'm going to use grey bricks for this demonstration. I have black on my original model just because it was, you know, the bricks I had to hand at the time. Grey does look better and a little bit more realistic. So as you see me struggling to do there, this axle piece that I have is 3 studs long. That is how these axle pieces are measured. And it's important you get the right size because it can lead to complications if you get it wrong. Now I've got these other 3 sort of Technic pieces. I don't know what the technical name for them is, but you will recognize these pieces. So in chucking them all together, of course with those Technic pins to put them into the wheels and these bricks themselves, that is what you will get. These do look quite nice. Of course the gaps between like where the axle rods are exposed, it's not particularly nice to some people, but at the same time it does work. But as you put them all in and you make them really solid and you know, like the way you put them all together, you kind of squish them a bit. So what you have to do there, and what you see me doing actually, is now that the rods are in, I've got to kind of space them correctly and just slightly turn the wheels. If you get it just right, it is perfectly smooth and it is something to really behold. So there we go, that is the base of the Thomas the Tank Engine done. Looks very good indeed. Now we're going to get onto the boiler and the cab. I think it'd be better to start with the cab first. Yeah, that's what I did. So the cab bit, as you see here, is already built up. Again, I kind of built the train and took it apart in certain details. So the back part of the cab is 3 studs long, and of course it is 6 studs wide. The whole build is a 6 stud wide build. But this is also 4 bricks tall, so you see me checking it there. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and of course 4. So a minifigure, I measure minifigures in terms of bricks. So a minifigure to me is 5 bricks tall. And you see me there also with those tile pieces. You may as well get some tiles on there and make it look nice and tidy again. You need to make sure you get this on the right side. So you see the front where the cone pieces are, that's the front. You need to get it on the back where it's a bit more chunky. And that is the back of the cab. That brick I was also using just there is a 1x6 brick, and it's an arch piece as well. I don't know how visible it is on the actual model when you see the series, but it is a better looking detail as well when you actually hold the model up. So there it is again, that's what it looks like. It's quite a nice piece actually. I've used this for a number of engines with the cabs in particular. And that is the back of the cab done. So it's 4 bricks tall, of course 6 wide, but it's 3 studs long. You can build it up however you want. Interlock some of the bricks, I mean it's your build ultimately. You could build this in another colour as well if you wanted. But yeah, that's that. So I was preparing the cab roof, I should say, for later on. But now we need to get onto the boiler, and this is probably going to be the most complicated part of this build because there is quite a lot to this. Just before we do that, actually, it would be wiser if we got onto the splashers. I only just learned what these are called. Those arches above the wheels, they're called splashers. Now, they are supposed to be a little bit lower down to give the drive wheels some more room, but yeah, that's pretty cool. So the brick you just saw there was a 1x4 arch piece. It's 2 tiles tall, and it works really well for this detail. And here you can see the 1x1 cheese slopes, as they're called, and a 1x2 tile, followed by another 1x2 tile, but it's smooth. I only have 2 of those perfect slope bricks, and they're both being used on my proper Thomas model. But the way that I'm using here, obviously with those cheese slopes and those 1x2 tiles, works really well. You can definitely see the blockiness in them, but it still works pretty good. This is also something you can see on the Emerald Knight, so seeing a model like that, it's not exactly a big problem. If you don't have the perfect slopes, again, it's a nice alternate. Anyway, I'll put that back on my proper model, and getting other ones on. It's much better to get these on now, because after I built the engine, I tried to get these on, trying to squish it underneath other bricks, and it was quite difficult. So I definitely recommend putting those on first. Now we can get to the boiler. This is interesting because, again, as I mentioned earlier, I built this up in a different way than I did to my proper Thomas model. It doesn't matter how you build it up, so to say, but so long as you get the shape right. So I've got a number of bricks here, again, how I built it and kind of took it apart afterwards. So I've got a 1x6 brick there, and that's going in front of the splashers. There should be a 2 stud gap between where the cab ends and the boiler begins. So you can see that there nice and clear. Hopefully it's clear enough for you. And then the bricks in the center are being inserted with a 1 stud gap between where the kind of front of the cab ends and obviously where the boiler begins. Call it whatever you want. But you can see that gap there. And that's because if you wanted to add extra details like obviously the controls, the firebox, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that's all there. Obviously we've got the 2x2 brick as well and the inverted slopes. It's quite blocky, the main boiler itself, but you do see some rounded details at the front. So that's where those come in. And now we're going to move on to the second layer. Now again, this is built up just however you want to. Obviously I use different bricks. You see me using some 1x1s there, just to allow different interlocking techniques and ultimately to create that sturdy construction. That is really vital to how this is built. So we got 2 studs covered so far. That centerpiece is being covered. And I've got a 1x6 brick about to be put on that covers half of the splasher. Now it does come out that far and it kind of covers half of that detail. If you look at the actual model again, like the actual Thomas model from the series, you can see it kind of covers like half the wheel and half the splasher. And that is the best look that I can create, being able to use the bricks. So that's the second layer done. Going on to the third layer now. Again, just kind of following along, just building up the bricks as they are. It's better to kind of go from the center first and then go from the outside, because you can better decide how you want to build it up and kind of just go from there really. So that's what it looks like at the moment. Again, some more built up details that were previously done. I've got 2 chunkier bricks here, and on these bricks are 2x1 tiles. Now on my main model I have a 1x6 tile, and I've only got the 2s and the 4s together just simply because I couldn't find any of the 1x6s. But this covers the side of the boiler where the kind of rectangular shape kind of ends basically. Obviously got those 1x4s to fill that gap, and the other 1x4 tiles to go behind the 1x2s. I can only hope you're all keeping up. If you are, that's pretty good. So yeah, that is the look at the moment. All good? Again, I hope so. So just for a quick comparison, you can see where those details are in comparison to the proper model. All coming along very well. Now this is going to be the window details, and this is a detail that I'm actually really pleased with because I've rarely been able to replicate this. So I've got some 1x2s just to go on the side there, and again you kind of just fill it in however you want. Got 1x4 to fill that gap. Got some 1x1s again. Now this is kind of basically the same no matter how I'm going to build this. So 1x1s to go on the back there. You could use another arch piece if you really wanted to, it doesn't really matter. 1x2 in the center. And now for the windows, I have a 1x2 Technic piece. This is the same piece used earlier for the axle rods for the drive wheels to slide through. So that's what they look like there. Get a good look. It's better to see them in blue as well. And they act as the windows basically. It's a very, not a cheaty detail, but it's very clever. So that is what they look like. Of course, there's having a bit of a play around there. Looking very good indeed. And now we are working on the front of the boiler. Of course, you're basically kind of copying what you did with the blue parts just in black. So we've got a 2x2 brick there. The inverted slopes go onto that. And you build your main face piece afterwards. So some 1x2s to go on the side. And there is a 1x2, another Technic piece to act as the face holder. So we'll wait for the video to catch up, just make sure everything's okay. So you see where those two go there. You could bring out some bricks from the blue parts of the boiler to attach to the black parts of the boiler, just for a little bit stronger connection for a sturdier construction. That's definitely a thing. So you saw the pieces being used there. That's what you need to get. Ideally, that's the best solution because the face piece will lie perfectly flat up against those bricks. So you see me using some proper 2x2 chunky brick slopes there. And of course a 2x2 tile on top to kind of keep that covered. And of course that extra layer is needed, particularly for how I've built this. So we're replicating that chunky slope look across the rest of the boiler. So we got 6 going on there. These are 2x2s. If you've got longer pieces, you may as well use them. I mean, personal preference, I suppose. And a 2x6 tile connecting them all together. Again, that's not necessarily just to hold the slopes together. That's because I need that extra levitation to get a much better and more accurate look. I've got 2 more of these cone pieces, but this time they are in gold to act as Thomas's whistle. I've got this sort of round shape to act as his dome. It is different to the one I've got on my personal model. As you can see, it's an actual sort of cylindrical piece, but again, it's just because that dome piece doesn't exist in blue. And 2 more 1x1 round bricks to act as Thomas's funnel. Oh, a bit difficult to try and show you there because of weird lighting. And they go in the center of that 2x2 black tile. And that is pretty much done. You have your Thomas model almost complete. How cool is that? Now, I was able to find a grey face piece this time. And I'm definitely going to have to use that for my lady model, I think. After I've done this, I'm going to steal that and put that on lady. But yeah, it looks so much better. That grey face really brings that character to life. And now for the roof, this is kind of interestingly done. I kind of like this method in particular because it is a 6x6 plate. And across that is a 2x6 tile. But it's got those 1x3 slope pieces. These are really cool, and I want to use these for more models. I have used these quite often and quite frequently. But there's only certain places where these can be used. Roofing for cabs is definitely one of the best places you can use these bricks, and they do look really good. So after you have 12 of them attached together, you can attach your base plate, and you can finally put the thing together, and you could say to yourself, I have Thomas the Tank Engine on my Lego railway. Look at that! Come on, that's cool. So I have 2 now. Well, not for long. As soon as I'm finished with this video, I'm going to take it apart. But yes, I hope I have managed to help you all in building your own version of Thomas the Tank Engine. If you have any questions, be sure to ask me in the comment section. If you were following along and building along with this, I would love to see the process, if you've made any changes. And yeah, there we go. I've had many people ask me across a number of videos. The 4 comments that I showed you at the beginning of this video were from the Thomas review video itself. I've had comments from other videos saying, could you please show me how you made Thomas? So yeah, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen,